I need to go away because it's echoing. Christine and I are in the same office, so she's moving area so we don't echo here. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining. We've called this meeting to introduce our new partnership with Keesen Landscape. So Keesen actually technically started with us at the end of 2021 for snow removal, but they are also our partners for our landscaping. So we wanted to give the opportunity for Brad, Devin, and Raul to introduce themselves, introduce Keesen, and then answer any questions that might be out there. We said a few topics that we'd like them to touch on, but really an opportunity to introduce our partnership. We're very excited to start this new partnership and see what this new year brings us.
Cool. So
Brett and Scott have anything, or we'll just turn it right over to Brad.
I think you have my questions.
okay, so just to introduce myself, my name is Brad Schuster. I'm the branch manager with Keesen up in the Broomfield office. Devin is our business developer who kind of put everything together and put us in touch with Leyden Rock, and then Raul Rojas is their account manager. So he'll be the eyes and ears, you know, for you guys throughout both the snow, the landscape, irrigation, any questions, concerns. Katie and Ben will be speaking mostly with Raul, and really my job is to get the roadblocks out of Raul's way and help out however I can with, you know, with Katie and Ben and you guys. So that's kind of us. Kind of quick in a nutshell. Katie, did you want me to just kind of jump into some of the topics that that you had asked us about?
Yeah, if you want to do that, and then we can open it up for any additional questions.
Sure.
Hey, Brad,
yes,
can you give us just a little overview of who Keesen is, what the time frame of our agreement with you is going to cover? This is a new change for the Metro District. We've had one landscape contractor for our entire existence. So if you could touch on a little bit about what you do and
sure.
Who you guys are, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Keesen is a landscape and snow removal and irrigation commercial landscape or contractor. We've been in the Denver market for going on or this is our 50-year anniversary coming up. So in 2022, it'll be 50 years. Our bread and butter is HOAs, so larger HOAs like yourselves. That's kind of who we are. That's how we've kind of brought up with us in the Denver metro area. We started off kind of like in one branch in kind of the Inglewood area, and then just have slowly grown throughout the Denver metro area. We don't do anything in Colorado Springs, nor do we do anything in Fort Collins as of right now. We are just solely here in the Denver metro area. We have 4 separate operations. We've got the main one in Inglewood. We've got one in Centennial that kind of handles the south and east side. We've got a Commerce City one that kind of handles the north and east, and then the Broomfield branch where Raul and Devin and I work. We handle all the northwest side of the Denver metro area. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years now. I've worked with some of the major players in the industry. I've been with Keesen for I've been going on for 2 years so far, and the one thing I can tell you about Keesen is that the people are outstanding. It's night and day difference compared to some of the other companies that I've been with, and that's what makes Keesen really special in my eyes. And we're always here for each other. So I'll kind of turn it over to Raul and Devin, and kind of let them kind of speak about themselves. Raul.
Thank you, Brad. Good evening, everybody. My name is Raul Rojas. I've been working for Keesen for about 27 years. I'm account manager here at the Broomfield office. And I really like what I do, and I would like to keep doing what I like. So you have any questions, please let me know.
Hi, everybody. My name's Devin Finn. As Brad introduced me, I'm the business development manager for the Broomfield office, and I work with directly with Raul and Brad on basically acquiring new opportunities, large communities such as yourselves that we think are mutually beneficial partnerships for both Keesen and yourselves as a community. And I'll work hand in hand with Raul and Brad on making sure everything that we've promised is going to get delivered, and do everything that we can to exceed all of your expectations. I've been with the company, with Keesen, for just about a year. So I'm fairly new, especially compared to Raul, who's been with us for a few decades. I've been in the overall industry for about 3 years, coming up on 3 years. So still relatively new to the industry, but I know enough to be dangerous. And then I've got good support behind me with Raul and Brad. So I think I can safely say you're in good hands with us, and we're looking forward to the partnership.
Yeah.
Right, and I'd just like to thank Scott and Tim and district staff for going through the RFP process. There were, I believe, were there 5 or 7 bidders that that bid for our services, and we chose Keesen basically on the strength of their proposal. They weren't necessarily the cheapest, they weren't the most expensive, but we thought they were the best. And Scott and Tim and district staff did a ton of legwork on this. So I want to thank them all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Brad.
you.
Yeah, and I mean, and our job for you guys is to try to minimize your landscape, irrigation, and snow removal issues, right? We're contracted with you guys to do the landscape maintenance on it on a weekly basis, trash removal, snow removal, but our job isn't just that. Our job is also to bring you guys issues that we see out in the field where you guys may not see that, or ways that we can improve your landscape, or reduce costs. Those things, that's what our job is, and that's what Raul is very good at, is giving you the things that you guys need. And if you guys tell us, hey, we don't want them, then we won't give them to you. But that's our job. We want to make this a partnership, a long-term partnership, not just you guys going out in 2 years and looking for another landscape contractor, right? That's not who we are, and that's not what we're about. So that's kind of who we are in a nutshell. Okay.
Raul, Devin and Brad said nothing but awesome things about you, says you're one of the best in the industry. So I think we're pretty happy to have you on board.
Thank you, and I will keep doing my best.
All right.
So a couple things that Katie had mentioned that we want to kind of address a little bit today is, one, kind of the snow removal operations, kind of what we're expecting right now. It feels like we're halfway through the season. We've only had 2 events underneath us, so still relatively new on that side. I'll let Raul kind of dive into that one. I'll talk briefly about some irrigation controllers, some of the stuff that we've kind of brought up to Brett and Scott, Ben and Katie, kind of what we were thinking, what's kind of maybe the best solutions to save water with you guys. And then Raul will kind of sum it up too on the backside of talking about a little bit of native grass establishments, things like that. And then by all means, when we're done with that, if you got questions, I mean, please feel free to answer. So, or ask. Raul, you kind of want to do a brief description of kind of the snow removal, where we're at now, and kind of what we're going to do in the future?
Well, what I'm planning to do right now is to add in one more piece of equipment. First time we have some issues with equipment, and it took us a little long to finish the job. Second time, I think we did it better than the first time, but still, I would like to add another piece of equipment and to finish the job faster. Instead of being there for 6-7 hours, we can see if we can get it done in about 4 or 5 hours. That's the idea for the next snow removal event.
Yeah, and like Raul said, I mean, we're still learning the layout of the land, so there's probably going to be sidewalks that we miss. I'm sure Katie will be calling us up saying, hey, you forgot about this one, or we've got to go back on this one. And that's all part of the learning curve. It's kind of, little bumpy roads here in the beginning of it, like it always is. But then kind of once we kind of get our feet wet and understanding the lay of the land, it'll get smoother and smoother as we continue to go. And it'll just be like clockwork, here come, February, March, and all through next year. So any other thing we need to address on the snow removal side?
Brad, can you cover a little bit on, and this question came from Christine, actually, and I was thinking the same thing. Can you touch on briefly what the city of Arvada plows for snowing and what Keesen plows for snowing? Because I want to make sure the residents understand there is a difference. I know that there's a map on our website that easily identifies what we have, but if you could touch on that briefly. Do you guys do streets? Do you guys do trails? Which part of the community are you guys plowing for?
Sure. Raul, you want to jump on that question?
Sure. Thank you, Brad. Well, basically for the plowing, we just do the Cloud House parking lot and, around the Cloud House. And we have a side map for snow removal for the HOA, and there's some other areas for the city of Arvada. But we have pretty good map with scope of work, and let us know if we're missing any areas.
Raul, you guys are doing trails though, am I right? Versus streets?
We just do sidewalks, concrete sidewalks or trail sidewalks. We don't do granite or breeze trails for snow removal.
Okay, and you guys don't, just to clarify, you don't snowplow any of the streets within our community?
We don't plow any of the streets. We just do the plowing at the Cloud House, the small parking lot in front of the Cloud House, in one more resident driveway. I don't have the address in front of me right now, but that's the only areas we do the plowing.
Mm-hmm.
I know where that is. That's up at the top of the neighborhood. So just to clarify for our residents, the city of Arvada does any snow plowing that's done within the neighborhood. Is that correct, Katie?
As far as the roads go, yeah. So it is unique. Keesen is a little bit, or we challenge Keesen, I should more say, because there's certain areas that are city of Arvada responsibility to plow for. Sidewalks, there are certain areas that it's our responsibility. So they're kind of pieced throughout the community. But as far as any road snow removal, the only thing that they really do is the parking lot here at the clubhouse.
Thank you.
Katie, who does the sidewalk around Lookout Park?
So that should be, it is half and half, I would say. There are portions that are, there's a portion kind of going down to the edge of where the pool is. That is district responsibility, but really that sidewalk and then the down sidewalk kind of around the park is city of Arvada.
All right.
So we probably have a quarter of the sidewalk, if that is district responsibility.
Yes.
And so from this last snowstorm, it seemed like city of Arvada was out a day or two after Keesen had come to remove snow. So I'm not sure if that just is because city of Arvada has other, priority roads and sidewalks, but like I said, the majority is city of Arvada around Lookout.
And if anyone has questions, they can just reach out to the district office as far as who's responsible for what. Or as Lisa just pointed out, we got a map on the website that you can click on that shows the snow removal areas.
Yep, that is
Great.
correct.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on snow then? No? Okay, so one of the other topics that that we've been discussing with Katie and Ben and Brett and Scott is the current irrigation controllers that are out there. We're in the process of updating another proposal for you guys. But what this is, they are smart controllers, and the difference is that right now we have standalone irrigation controllers out there that takes Raul or I or the irrigation tech to go out there and manually, set the dial and, from week to week, make small adjustments. What that's doing is it's taking it out of our hands and allowing for straight weather data that updates these controllers every single day. So every single day they will update to determine whether or not we should water a little bit more or a little bit less, or if we got a big rainstorm or windstorm, things like that. It updates it on a daily basis. And the good thing about these irrigation controllers that we are recommending is that it will also just shut the irrigation. If we get a lot of rain in there, it'll just shut the irrigation system down for 2, 3, 4 days. But the cool thing about it is it'll maximize the amount of water it needs through the night to try to eliminate water runoff or water overwatering or underwatering. So it's a really good tool that we're introducing over here. If everything goes as planned and we install these, just to kind of give a larger overview picture, we will likely show signs of a little bit of stress in the beginning because the landscape and the turf is used to the past water of maybe overwatering, right? So it may you still show a little bit signs of stress, but we're there to kind of override that and kind of update it a little bit. But the whole idea is to allow these smart controllers to run themselves. And the whole idea for these smart controllers is to save water. That's it. It's to save water on your water bill. It's to save water on, just runoff with erosion control, with streets. The plant material should be healthier. All these, benefits on it from just changing out a typical irrigation controller versus a smart controller. And that's kind of what we're looking at here this off season to get them installed for and ready for the springtime. Any questions on the smart controllers at all?
And for residents, that's like the ratio systems, right?
Yeah, it's the Mercedes-Benz of the ratio systems. Yeah. Yep. Correct.
And how much do we think this is going to save us in water use per year?
Okay, I think the average was what, like almost 30%?
Yeah, between 20 and 30% of water savings.
Per season.
That's unbelievable. That's fantastic. We're excited about this.
It is, and I've seen it firsthand where we've had people pay off these controllers within 1 year of just the amount of water savings on here. It can range from anywhere that 3 to 5 years, but I mean, there's some drastic turnarounds if we dial this thing in correctly. Anything else on the irrigation controllers? No? Okay. Well, kind of the last thing that was on the list was the native grasses and trying to get that established, especially with, what do you think, Raul? About 98% of the native is non-irrigated.
Non-irrigated.
You kind of want to kind of share your thoughts on what you're thinking of for the next couple of years.
Sure, yeah, and it might be needed more than once. I think it's good time to start it. I visited the property early today to take a look at some of these bare spots on the native areas, and I noticed that, yeah, there's some areas that need some help. Right now, it's a good time to put some information together. The best time for overseeding here in Colorado with this type of climate is between, I would say between March and April, or September and October. So 2 more months is going to be early spring. So I would recommend put some get some square footage and provide some good information about the areas, and we go from there.
Yeah, the whole idea, with the native being non-irrigated, is we want to time it right with the weather, right, where it's not too hot and we've got good moisture. So that March time frame is a really good spot to get it. So when we get that good seed to soil contact, we get Mother Nature to help us out. It'll start establishing that much quicker. if we get it into, you know, like midsummer, like last year, like July, we didn't see any rain from what, July until September, October. I mean, it was extremely dry. You put any seed down there during that time, there's, you know, a 5% chance of that stuff surviving. So it's just really, really low. So do it in the spring, or like Raul said, in the fall, when we can, you know, have Mother Nature help us out, dramatically increases our chances of that seed surviving and establishing, you know, where those bare spots are.
If we go on another extended drought, you guys ever look at temporary irrigation? Kind of push it along?
Yeah, we can. Absolutely. Yeah. And we've got the good thing is that there's so many taps out there in there. We can all easily tap on something like that, run it on top of that native to help that establishment. Absolutely. Yeah. If that's something that you guys are really wanting to look at, 100%.
Yeah, we can do it.
Do you guys, we've heard a lot of doom and gloom about, I guess, our youth destroying temporary fences. Is that something you see, or is that kind of bluster from a lot of companies?
I'm sorry, can you explain that? I don't quite
Well,
understand the
we've
question.
heard from other companies that temporary irrigation gets damaged by our youth sometimes and other people. Is that something you guys experience a lot, or is it just kind of a bit of an exaggeration?
No, it is. I mean, honestly, it's kids playing around. They see something, a big white pipe and some head sticking out, and they just want to go play with it. And
Yeah.
I think depending on where we put it, my guess is that there's going to be less visibility. So I think we could get a good stand with it. But if you put it right along next to a house in an open space, like especially like in between, like a little track in between some houses, you put temporary irrigation on there, the likelihood is it's probably going to get damaged. So I think it just kind of depends on the location of it.
Okay.
Following up on Scott's comment, he's bringing that up because we've been talking about temporary irrigation because we've spent a lot of money and time throwing out a lot of seed that all it's done is fed birds. It really hasn't had a chance to grow. We had a very wet spring, so some of it germinated then, but we still have some real challenges getting to soil grow here. Getting native grasses to grow here because of the soil composition. Do you normally drill in seed, scatter seed? How do you handle hillsides, things like that?
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is you're going to get erosion, right? So you're going to have to drilling it in nothing but rock and clay is really, really challenging, right? You're going to have to scrape it. You got to get that a little bit of area where that seed can germinate and penetrate into that soil to establish, right? If once we did that, we would scrape it up or scar it up pretty well. We'd lay the seed down. We put some a good compost on there to get that nutrients that it needs, and then I would recommend putting like an erosion control blanket on top of that. Staple it down in those areas, so then the wind doesn't blow it away. The birds can't get to it, right? It's got that establishment. Or a big rain that comes down, it's not just washing all that stuff off. And at the bottom of the curb, there's a big black mark with a bunch of seed and soil sitting there. So I think each spot will probably be a little different, depending on the slope and where it's facing. But yeah, you'd have to put something down on there to tackify that seed on there so it doesn't just blow or wash away.
I like the sound of that. I don't know if that's been done in the past, so I'm thankful for that.
Sure.
You can approach maybe.
I agree with Scott, and we have kind of a narrow window where we may have funding to be able to accelerate that process. So that's something we're definitely interested in. It's been a tough spot for the community trying to get some of these bare areas covered. Soil amendment will go a long way towards doing it. So thank you. Thank you, Brad. Yeah,
and what I would recommend then is, especially because we're on this time area where we've got some good weather now, who knows, 2 weeks now, it could be snowing for the next month and a half, right? If we can get out there, walk it with you guys, with Ben, Katie, whomever, so then Raul can identify, hey, here's the areas that we want to address. Let's figure out a game plan for specifically these areas. And we can try some different approaches on different areas too, to see which ones what gives us the best result, and then we can mimic that in the future as well.
Katie, do you still have the map that Tim and I put together? I think it was beginning of last year, it may have been before your time here, where we identified we drove the entire neighborhood and identified some areas where we think we're definitely going to need some help. Do you guys still have that? Or maybe we could just redo it. We just do it again with Scott.
Hold
and I.
on one moment. Katie stepped away for one moment. She's right back.
Okay.
If you
Okay.
could repeat your question.
Yeah, no problem. Earlier this year, Tim and I did a drive around the entire community, and we identified some areas where we wanted reseeding to be done, and we stratified those as far as a high need, medium need, low need. Do you still have that information, Katie, or is that something that may have gotten lost in the transition?
Do you remember when about you guys did do that?
Early spring, I believe.
Okay. I'm not familiar with it, but Christina was really great at keeping records. So let me do some digging.
Okay.
Was it a list format or like a map, or do you recall?
I think it was, I believe it was a list that we put
Okay.
together.
Let me just write myself a note here.
No problem. We can follow up on that. We can follow that. We can redo it with Brad and Raul if you'd like. Scott may have identified some additional areas, so maybe we should
Yeah.
just
Let me see if
reapproach.
I can find like the bones of it for us.
Okay.
Okay.
And Raul, maybe you can answer this. During the meeting, I guess the pitch meeting, you guys talked about how you deal with natural grasses and you have a different mower. How do you guys deal with natural grasses and kind of baby it? Since we have so much natural grass.
Oh, you're talking about ornamental grasses or native
Just the
grasses?
native grasses out there.
With the native grass, well, native grasses, per the contract, we are going to do the beauty bands. We are going to mow at least, I would say, between 4 and 6 inches high along the perimeter sidewalks. This year is going to be new for me and for the crew, but I'll be there until we get familiar with all these native mowing areas.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the whole idea too with the native mowing, I mean, some of the areas you've got a very, very good stand out there, right? I mean, it's free seed, right? You've got to let it germinate, or you got to let it seed itself, and allow it to, go to seed, drop that seed, and hopefully it'll establish more. If we cut it nonstop, or if you guys want the idea of cutting it nonstop to get it to make sure that it's only 6 to 12 inches, it kind of defeats the purpose. And what ultimately it'll create is the stand of native won't be as strong as it should be, and it'll allow weeds to grow through. So the longer you can keep it up, allow that plant to go to seed, to drop that seed there, the likelihood is that stand will continue to grow stronger and stronger year after year. Right. So that's kind of the whole idea, but it's going to be, it's a learning curve, right? Every property is a little different. You guys have different expectations. It's a different landscape. So this is, it's this constant communication back and forth is how we're going to grow as a group to make this landscape even better than what it is now.
Well, and a good part of the cutting of native grasses is really that defense line. We call them mow bands, beauty bands behind the perimeter of the community. Again, it's that defense for wildfires.
Sure.
And we do have topography that sometimes plays against us, but it's that in trails, really, I think, is the majority of where we see that native being cut down.
Sure. Yep.
Along the fences, along the trails, sidewalks, to prevent any weeds growth in the homeowners' backyards. So that's the idea.
So I guess, Brad, we're gonna have to do a fine line between protecting dogs and people from snakes and cutting it down low versus having it grow strong, because we get a lot of concern about thistle and
Sure.
snakes. So it's kind of a, I guess we'll have to find a meeting point.
Yeah, I've got younger kids too, so like the snakes, I get it, right? It makes sense to me. And so I can, you just kind of hopefully just try to find the balance and,
Yeah.
just keep working through it together.
All right.
Anything else for us? That was kind of the main topics, Katie. Is there anything else that we need to address or have questions on?
I think that was the main topics that we had asked, but we can open it up. It looks like Brett maybe has something he wants to ask.
Well, we touched on this. You touched on this very briefly at the end, and I apologize. I was in the chat just a bit. We do mow beauty bands occasionally along the edges of paths and behind homes, which for the most part, those small areas probably aren't going to be as involved as much in reseeding as some other large swaths of the neighborhood. How often are we slated to do the beauty bands along trails and the mowing behind fences? It's about a 6-foot swath. Is that twice this season, Katie?
It is 2 times, and actually we had a request from the fire department to see if we can extend that 6 foot to 10 feet. Now, we did let them know it is challenging with some of our hillside, but that was the ideal footage for our Arvada Fire Department with that defense line. But it is twice a year, to answer your question.
Okay, great. Thank you. One other thought that I had. Never mind. That's something for a different time. I'm just very grateful that that you guys have volunteered to come on board with us to have this meeting tonight and to introduce yourselves to the community a little bit. Community engagement is huge. It's absolutely something that is so important to us. And Raul, we're so glad that you can be part of our team. Katie, we're going to have a couple representatives from Keesen on site just about all the time. Am I right? Couple guys from their team.
We did discuss with them, having folks available. I don't know that we've solidified for those landscape plans, but it was talked about kind of always having a 2-man team here on site, and then we'll bring in folks, and when they need to do those mows, have more people out here and stuff. But having some folks that are kind of always available for the, hey, there's tumbleweeds over here, or hey, can you go over here? A tree was knocked down, blown over, whatever. So Brad, I don't know if that is correct with you guys, but my understanding is we discussed that. We just haven't quite solidified what that landscape plan is looking like.
Yeah, you're correct, Katie. Yeah, we talked about having a 2-man crew out here just to, every day of the week, just to kind of knock out those honeydews that come up out of nowhere, trash blown in, trees, things like that, tumbleweeds, where we can help out like that at any given time, so you guys aren't just waiting. So just to kind of big picture, we'd have 2 guys out there that would probably mow everything probably all in 1 or 2 days. The other days they would be out kind of doing native in a phase, like, hey, this is going to be week 1, week 2, week 3. So you guys kind of have an idea of the flow of where we're at. And then we would have another team that would come in for irrigation, right? That they would go through the irrigation controllers, check them out on a weekly basis. And then if, let's say, we did a large plant install or tree installation, things like that, we have a specialized enhancement crew that would then come out and do specifically those or that work, that would just communicate with the irrigation tech, with the crew leader out there to let them know, hey, this is what's going on. And all of that stuff funnels through Raul. Raul is 100% responsible for all that of scheduling, communication from Keesen to Katie or to Ben to you guys. That's all 100% runs through Raul. So Raul will be involved and have knowledge of everything that goes on in and out of that landscape or snow removal area.
That's great. Thanks, Brad. One other Something that you touched on earlier was we might see some browning and some stress in some of the plants and trees
Sure.
as you're dialing in the new irrigation system.
Mhm.
We already know that it's going to take a couple snowfalls to get your feet underneath you for snow removal. That's completely normal. Is there anything else our residents should be prepared for, or might think or need to know is kind of normal at the beginning of a relationship like this?
There are going to be some bumps in the road, right? We're still learning. We're learning you guys. You're learning us and what our capabilities are. So there are going to be those bumps in the roads, right? But the more the communication, obviously, the better it is, right? We always like to do spring walks. I mean, Raul is notorious in the company of getting out and walking with our clients, right? He loves doing that. So if we can do like a spring walk and kind of identify, hey, these are some of the things that we want to look forward towards, May, June, July, August, September, October type thing. So then he can then kind of create a calendar and a schedule of what you guys are looking for and when, right? And then if we do a tree install, for instance, when we're done with that, right, let's walk the trees. Let's make sure that you guys are happy with the work that we've provided. And if not, all right, let us make the adjustments, right? We're going to make mistakes. I can tell you right now, if it's our fault, we'll own it, right? I'm not opposed to trying to hide stuff under the, I'm not hiding anything under the rug or anything like that, right? If it's our fault, we'll take care of it, right? But the more communication, seems like the smoother everything goes.
And speaking of communication, residents should reach out to the Metro District office primarily, correct? Either email or call, right, Katie?
That is correct. I spoke with Raul. We'll go ahead and set him up with business cards so residents can kind of funnel their questions, requests, etc., through us at the district office to then communicate with Keesen. We just don't want it to get messy out there for people who are requesting through Keesen, and do we have approval and stuff. So we talked about it would be easy for Raul and his team to hand out our business cards and those questions to come to us to address.
It's a great idea. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows too, that's on the call, is we are not a residential company. So if a client or a homeowner comes up to us and says, hey, you might doing this for us, we're just not set up that way. It's very difficult, even though we want to help out. It's just, we're just not set up that way, and it's really hard for us. And yeah, so we'll work 100% with the district itself. Katie, anything else on your guys' end?
I don't think so, but let's go ahead and open it up to residents. I see a couple questions in the chat. Ron, I just want to make sure you were answered. So our landscape company actually isn't who does our weed control. We have weed wranglers that helps with that weed control. Doesn't mean landscape or Keesen doesn't help with that, but we really do have somebody else who's focused on that weed mitigation. Do you have, I guess, any additional questions, or did that kind of answer your question you put in the chat? This was for Ron Hill.
Let me unmute here for a minute. We'll try the video now. Yeah, I hope I got the location right, for that massive hillside restoration. I think it's 88th Avenue on the north side and just above Westridge Park. But it now actually has, I'd estimate at least 1 acre, if not 2 acres of cheatgrass. And that is a really invasive, noxious weed that has been identified by the local Jeffco noxious weed program and other programs as needing active control to mitigate it, before it just runs over everything. But that's one of those weeds that needs to be specially mitigated at a particular part in the breeding season. That is very early spring. As soon as its ugly little heads come out of the ground, it needs to be taken care of. Of course, it goes to seed, it's too late. And these things produce thousands and thousands of seeds, and it will choke out all attempts of native grass planting if it isn't carefully mitigated. So I just wanted to point out that, Katie, for Keesen or the weed whacker services to give special attention to. And another area that I like to identify for special attention is the hillside between downhill from Zircon and uphill from Yucca Street. That hillside there last season was getting a pretty heavy thistle growth. Thistle can be controlled, but it has to be controlled again in early spring before the blossoms start coming up, the stalks start coming up. So, you know, the right people like are on the line now can get in there at the right time of the year. They can make huge inroads into preventing massive problem noxious weed growth in those areas that will just be getting worse and worse unless they're actively managed. So those are two areas I'm aware about that are actually close to houses that could spread and really be ugly.
Hey, Ron, would you be willing to stop by the office and point these areas out? Because some of your streets aren't making sense.
Okay, be happy to.
Yeah, there's not an 88th anywhere near Westridge. 88th is at the very, very, very north.
Oh, what's the road that Leyden Rock changes to at Ewell Street when it heads north? What I thought is 88th Avenue.
87th.
Okay, excuse me, 87th then.
Yeah.
Remember where the tons and tons of steel beams were inserted in the ground and we had it fenced off and that area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually, you can talk to the management. A lot of that's at Arvada too.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up, we again are challenged by what's district property, what's city of Arvada. There are even portions of city of Arvada that the district just takes care of. So yeah, Ron, if you want to just help identify even offline with me, I think I know about the areas that you're talking about, but if it's city of Arvada, I'll connect with Clay and Ken, our contacts over at the city, and see what we can do to make sure in spring they're taking care of that grass and thistle.
So do you have my email there to let me know when you're available? I'll be glad to walk over those areas or mountain bike to them.
Let me see that I do.
Yeah, if I know a day or two in advance, I can easily adjust my schedule just so, you know, whenever it's convenient with you or your assignments.
Of course, yeah. Let me see what I can pull up for your information and I'll just confirm in the chat to let you know I've got some information.
Oh, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll send you an email with my contact.
Oh, perfect. That'll be great.
Okay, all right. Thanks all.
Thank you, Ron. I also see we have Scott who's asked some questions about tree maintenance, clearing of failed trees.
Yeah, usually on any type of tree maintenance, shrubs, especially trees that have died. That's where we want to do that spring walk, right? Is to identify what's out there, what survived through the winter, what didn't survive, what we need to replace, what we just need to cut down. So my guess is Raul will be reaching out to Katie, to you and Ben to say, hey, when we can schedule this kind of spring walk, and all that stuff will be identified then and kind of create a plan of action for the rest of spring and summer.
Yes, and in addition to that, we the district did have a soil test done on multiple areas through the district to give us a better idea of what challenges we're finding with trees surviving. So I think we're very hopeful that that'll help us put us in the right direction to know what trees will work and where. And
no, that's great.
It's a lot of information. So yeah, it's something that we hope is very beneficial to our trees.
Yeah, so it's beneficial for us too. So then we're not just putting trees in and replacing it year after year after year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. Is there any other questions residents or board may have for Keesen?
Hey, Scott, do you want to jump on and ask your questions specifically?
That addressed it specifically. I just tend to notice that there's just so many just dead trees along entranceways to the neighborhood. Some of them I know are Arvada Park, probably trees, but the entrances really need some help to say, no, this doesn't look like Death Valley as you're driving in and seeing dead trees. I mean, I'd really prefer almost that they be just removed if they can't be replaced. But I do think it'll be helpful if we can determine what would survive in our soil conditions here. I was just jokingly saying, since our area comes up as plastic a lot of times on my Facebook, that plastic trees might be appropriate for our area to help survive these conditions. Because if anybody's noticed that our neighborhood always shows up as plastic because of the old railroad siding.
There was a pause put on installing or replacing any dead trees until we got that soil report back. Soil report came back late fall, so a little bit late for us to start addressing, and it's quite a bit of information to digest. So we're hoping with our professional landscape team, we've also included our landscape committee. So we really are hoping for good things coming out of the soil report and taking care of those dead trees around the community.
Okay, sounds good.
And Scott, if you don't like the way the entrances look, stay tuned. We got some big plans.
Oh, I'm not going to be recruited into helping though. So,
I already got your number down.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm an idea person.
We'd love to hear them. Seriously, we'd love to hear ideas. You know, we've got a great team, but the more minds, the merrier. So if you've got some ideas, please let us know.
Keep that in mind. Thanks.
Okay.
This is Ron again. I guess I'll be a smart aleck about something, but I know most of you remember, at least Brett, a couple of you do, the Verizon tower fiasco. But if we start replacing the natural dead trees with plastic trees, why not put in a few smaller plastic artificial trees with cell phone antenna in it to help coverage, especially in the dead areas? They can easily be disguised as pine trees or whatever. And now I'll shut down now. Just an idea, Brett, Scott, board members.
Well, the 5G rollout, which is going to happen sometime in the next couple of years, is going to be all across the neighborhood. Smaller transmitters, usually mounted on light poles, things like that. That is coming. It's just a matter of time. And there won't be, as much as I lobbied against the cell phone tower at the time, there won't be anything we can do about the 5G rollout. It will be what it is. So that is, hope is coming if you're a 5G customer on that front.
All right, if there's no more questions, I'll just kind of close it up. I want to say, thank you to the Keesen team for joining us today. Also, thank you because communication this far has been great. I know we reach out when snow is coming and Raul is sending us snow reports and they've got teams out and kind of aware of everything. So big thank you for communication this far. We're excited to see what we can do with irrigation. I know when we were talking about a community garden at the end of the year, you guys were ready to jump on. So we're very excited to roll that out come spring. So very much looking forward to this partnership.
Well, thank you, Katie. Thank you for having me in this meeting. And I will get in touch with you. And if you need anything from me, please let me know. Talking about the dead trees, the spring, I think, is the best time to identify what's coming back and what's dead. And it's not just the type of plant material was planted on the wrong spot. Maybe there's some irrigation issues. I mean, could be a lot of things involved on these dead plant material. So when we activate irrigation system, we'll investigate make sure everything is working properly on the irrigation, make sure all these plant materials getting water, and we go from there.
Thank you, Raul.
Thank you. You guys have a good night.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you to
Thanks.
Keesen for coming.
Great. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very
Have a good
much.
night,
Have a
everybody.
great night.
Appreciate it. Good night.